Hi, I'm Ray Shields. I'm joined this evening by Tim, and we're going to go through a recap of the recent tournament, King Beyond the Wall. King Beyond the Wall 4, The Thing Beyond the Wall, was a tournament that was held from the 12th to the 13th of August at Black Knight Games in Hamilton, Ontario. What made it special and unique for a tournament was that it was at 2,300 points, but in addition to the basic 2,300 points, you could make a custom 300-point Titan to fit your list. Considerations to make sure that that didn't go overpowered was that the Titan can't fly, it can't be nimble, and upon future consideration, it wasn't allowed to shoot at 18 or 24 inches. Despite being essentially 2,600 points, we were playing with 65 minutes on the clock, and there were 28 players in attendance. So, going into the next slide, we're going to discuss the Thing Beyond the Wall, your special characters that you're allowed to create. Tim, one of the things they came up with before the tournament was a spreadsheet done up in Google Docs, which allowed you to say, like, I want 10 attacks or 7 attacks or 15 attacks. Did you end up using that spreadsheet at all going into this?
It was pretty great. I think I used it to get a good idea of how that had worked, because before this tournament I hadn't really opened up that part of the rulebook. I hadn't looked at that you could build these custom monsters, and I really appreciate that Alex and John and the guys who organized it kind of like brought that part of the rules in, because it was so much fun.
Yeah,
Really
it was very cool, and I saw an awful lot of different designs, and they were all very unique, ranging from my design, which was completely focused on speed, to your design, which looks like it's a bit more wanting to be resilient and dwarfy.
Yeah. I was I actually very curious on how other people did it, though, because originally I built my army list 2,300 points and I didn't worry about the thing at all. And then I kind of went back after I'd looked at the thing and realized that I could build a thing that really complemented my army, and then went back and revised my list because there was a few things that the thing could do that my army didn't need to do anymore.
So I guess we go into this. This one was mine, and I actually came up with like 3 designs in my notepad. I kept this one was the Need for Speed, which I labeled Rodan. I named all my creatures after Godzilla, so I had Godzilla,
Nice.
Rodan, and King Ghidorah. And
Yep.
King Ghidorah was when I was allowed to do shooting, so he had like the 24-inch shooting, the piercing 2, and he was all set up that way.
Yeah.
This one was Rodan, obviously, because I intended him to go speed 10 as fast as possible, like get go. And then Godzilla was kind of like a mix between the two. I think he was like speed 8 with like 12 attacks and a short range breath weapon.
Yep.
So I originally designed this creature to be complementing my Order of the Green Lady, because they have the speed 10 fly with the Order of the Forsaken and the Pegasus Knights and the Unicorns.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure he was the best fit to go with the Trident Realm.
And this is the one that you ended up taking?
This is the one I ended up using him because I had played him in my Green Lady list, and he worked in the Green Lady list because you can fly him in with the Forsaken or fly him in with the other speed 10 elements, and it just does work. I reduced the attacks to 10. There was an awful lot of like 15 points here, like you and I were discussing, because I was like, oh, I can get 12 attacks for 65 points, or I can get 10 attacks for 50 points and get Brutal 2. I'm like, I'm going to take Brutal 2.
Yeah. I was very I see that you did the defense 2 with the big shield. Such a bargain. Like, why wouldn't you?
I think Big Shield may have been the most common facet or addition I saw to the creatures. I think in my 5 matchups, I think only 1 did not have Big Shield, and he had defense 6. But Wild Charge D3 on top of Speed 10 was excellent. I'm just not necessarily certain this was the monster that my list needed. I think he was fully designed to help the Knights. where they have speed 10, but nothing in my army went quicker than speed 9. So there was a bit of a speed gap.
Yep. Yep.
Overall, I was very happy, but I think if this is going to be done in future years, big shield needs to be almost like inverse. If you're defense 2, big shield needs to cost more. If you're defense 5, like here's big shield, it's like 10 points more. Like have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So speaking of which, then we have yours, which is very different from what my monster was.
Mm-hmm. I definitely I designed this. I actually had something that was very a high amount of attacks when I started, but I ended up changing it to go more to sit in that battle line. Like my army was called the Wall of Iron, and it definitely performed like that. And whenever I didn't play it like that, it fell apart. But the defense 6, I found that the best 10 points I spent was the 5 points each for an additional waiver, just to make it -18. Some of the Titans I versed, anything that didn't, I found like I wavered a lot of Titans who didn't pay for, for the Fearless. And yeah, I'm very glad I did. And I've never had a model, I've never ran Cloak of Death before, and it's great. It's love adding that, especially once you're so tough as well, and you can jump into that melee going on, and he's not being damaged, but there's just everyone adding wounds all the way around him. It was pretty great. And I love the model. It was I spent a long time hunting for that, something that would fit with the army and not be I didn't want to go just a rock monster with dwarves. I figured that was what people expected. And hunted around for a long time. I was pretty happy with how the model turned out. So,
as you should be. So I guess we go into the army list that you have, which is Wall of Iron.
yeah.
So it looks like you went with 4 regiments of Iron Guard, but you could only fit in 3 throwing mastiffs.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How'd the horde of shield breakers work out with Brew of Strength?
They were excellent. I used them very, very differently than kind of how you would expect to use them. They were actually, I found that because they're a horde and you can sort of form a different way for your movement, they were very effective at deterring big flyers and that sort of stuff jumping into my back line. And I deployed them in the rear behind the Wall of Iron. They're the only thing that really isn't defense 6. And that was actually, we were talking before about tough matchups, and when I was versing the Riftforged Orcs, the Nathan really took a gamble by charging into the with a big chunky flying unit, and charged into the shield breakers and regretted it, I guess. Because it, we were short on time and everything. I don't think he quite did the math, and they hit back with 25 attacks, hitting on 3s with crushing 2, and it's very reassuring to have your front battle line and then still have a chunky unit like that sitting behind to kind of follow up and clean up anything that comes through. So, and
it looks like the Brock Riders did your flank protection with the troop with skirmishers boots and the drunken ram.
That was amazing. That was, I remember after Albany, I think we were in Albany, and you recommended doing the skirmishers boots on a troop of Berserker Brock Riders. That has been great. That I was very proud of how they performed, specifically in that game as well. They got around some nimble large monsters and got out of that arc of I think we can see it later in one of the battle photos of actually them turning around to go and rear charge another unit of Riftforged Orcs who had gotten past me. So yeah, it was really good. The background, my last trip down to Hamilton, I got the wooden spoon, so I was very determined to turn it around this time, and this list did really well. I feel like what I changed, and I don't regret changing it all, was going with the 2 flame belchers.
Okay.
Getting rid of my my long range shooting forced me to get my dwarves up there, get them into the fight, concentrate on the objective, and that worked really well. And I'd advise it for any beginner Kings of War player who thinks that they can sit back and shoot with war machines or shoot with bowmen or something like that. Is do yourself a favor, get rid of the shooting, or bring the shooting long ranged, and get up there and get into the fight. It's the way to win.
Okay. And Gollix Fury was able to march up with you as well and provide additional shooting, but closer range.
Yes, and I think the bigger thing about Gollix Fury is the Iron Resolve aura.
Okay.
That helped a lot. Like defense 6 is just an absolute drug.
So
Once
you
you
had
get,
the defense 6 with Iron Resolve, with Radiance of Life.
yeah,
Um, I know you were humming and hawing a bit on the Battle Driller beforehand with the Brutal 2 and the ability to move. Did he work out for you?
yeah, he worked really well. He only needs to land that one hit, like his 75 points. 75 points for like an almost guaranteed, I'm gonna say 3 wounds, right? Because he has 6 plus d6 attacks.
Yeah.
He hits on 4s, so he doesn't hit very well. He's crushing 1, but just one of those attacks needs to land, and then you've got that brutal 2 adds to it, right? So he would the Iron Guard are good. They don't die, especially when you have the Radiance Life and the Iron Resolve, but they don't kill stuff. So you need something. You need to leave that little gap in your lines and bring something through to tip those combats in your favor.
Stone Priest worked out with Radiance of Life. Bane. I was waiting for you to say that you gave Bane Chant to the Horde of Shieldbreakers to get them up to CS3 as they countercharge the Orc for hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s. I was just imagining that. Both Veil of Shadows and Celestial Restoration, but you found that running that combination was probably a bit much.
Yes, I'd never cast Celestial Restoration, and I didn't realize it when I put it on the model. But I was staying with Nathan when I was down there, and Nathan reminded me, oh, actually, have a quick look at Celestial Restoration. It's indirect only, so I had planned that maybe I might need some more healing, and I couldn't have really done it anyway because the Stone Priest was always too close to resurrect to heal up a unit. Right?
Nathan, why didn't you tell me this ahead of time? And of course, the Dwarf Lords on Large Beast. I think that was almost in every single army at Masters, and it's just such a critical piece to
yeah. And it's a weird. It was a weird change. I always used to think of those models as charging off and doing a lot of damage, but really they're there just to anchor your line and make sure you don't get charged in the flanks, which was a sage wargamer told me that. I think his name was Ray.
Well,
it's so true.
They are absolute chunks of defense 6, nerve 15, 17. Like even if you flank them, you're not guaranteed to kill them on any given day.
Yeah, absolutely. They are not the tough thing about them is they are thunderous 2. So if your battle line happens to end in a piece of difficult terrain, you're out of luck. But it was always worth it for me, even just to stick them in the difficult terrain, because that was where the battle line ended, because they're more valuable as stopping that entire defense 6 battle line from rolling up than charging out, right? The Thunderous 2 wasn't as valuable as the defense 6 with the small monster base.
Because each one kind of has the same nerve as a regiment of Iron Guard.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's very cool. And probably some minor modifications before the next tournament that you have coming up, but probably
Yes.
not too many modifications since you're hitting some success with them right now.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've got this big choice ahead of me for to go with the really pretty army that I've been working on, or with this army that I've suddenly started to do well with.
Well, because you figured it out, you've paid your dues, you've lost your battles, and now you know
Yep.
what you're doing. So,
Yep.
so
Yep.
speaking of which, we clearly played 5 games. Scenarios played were pillage, push, dominate, control, and loot. You ended up with a 3-2 record, doing exceptionally well. So, um, thoughts on the games? You said the top picture on the right talked about a pivotal moment in the game.
Yes. So I took these pictures. I took the top right and the bottom left, and someone else took the middle one. And each game I went into, especially when you play dwarves, you got short legs, so you have to win by objective. Wherever those objectives are, you need to end up there by the end of the game. You can't run halfway across the board. So I needed to go into every game with a plan, and the top right one, I ended up losing that game. And the reason I think that I lost the game was that I abandoned the plan. So I should have been all the objectives. If you can't see me pointing at the screen, all the objectives were up in that kind of where in the middle. You can see one of them where the lake is.
Yep.
Right. So where that difficult piece is, and all the objectives for the board were all ended up piled in that corner. And I really needed to go and push that corner, but some threats started to come from me from, what would be the left if we're looking at the photo. And I turned my battle line to go and face those threats. And I should have just kept on going. I had those, my battle line was formed. They would have been fine. They could have held. It was way more important that I go for the objective than go for the kill. And that was every time I did that, I lost the game. So, yeah.
Okay. And you said the bottom left against the rats is where you fold your game plan. And
Yes. So top right was game 1.
okay.
Bottom left was game 2, and you can kind of see that sort of nice solid battle line there, where everything stayed. Are those the shield breakers there? Or are those yeah, I think those might be the shield breakers. But yeah, I kept everything in a solid battle line. I kept the and just stuck to the plan and went after the objective. So it was push. So you can see that piece of terrain in the bottom right hand corner of the screen is what I sort of anchored one. It was a nice thing to do with dwarves. Again, something that you taught me was anchor my battle line on a piece of impassable terrain, so you can't get attacked from that side. And we just need to push over the line. So that that hill there is essentially the half of the, like, that's the halfway point, right? So my objective was just to push over that, and everything that he tried to push back the other way just couldn't get through the defense 6. So it's kind of the nice thing about being dwarves is you can say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we almost don't care what the enemy's going to do because we're defense 6, and we don't need a kill, we just need to win the objective, right? So playing the objective, it really went well for me when I did that.
And with dwarfs, because you're only speed 4, you have to come up with your plan to hit the objective almost during deployment. Like, you don't really have a lot of flexibility to adjust your game plan throughout the game.
Yeah.
So I think probably more than any other army, you have to say, here's the objectives I have to do to win the game. Here's how I have to set up to hit those objectives. And regardless of whatever the enemy does, like you found out in the top right game, the first game, you have to hit those objectives, or if you begin reacting to the enemy, you're on the wrong foot and you're more likely to lose than win.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I kept on pushing, that would have caused him to have to react to me getting objectives, really. So
did you have a favorite scenario? Because normally push is not normally one of the ones that dwarf players want to play, like to play.
Yeah, push wasn't. I didn't like push as much as the other ones. Dominate was probably the best. Once I stepped into that circle. But yeah, Nathan had a really. I felt bad for winning that one because I feel like Nathan got the short end of the stick. I won which side of the board I wanted to deploy on,
Okay.
and I gave him that big piece of impossible terrain there, so he couldn't get through that. And yeah, was what it was.
Oh, so I think I went to the next slide, which
Yeah,
was
okay.
future plans and projects. So I have some pictures of what's been on your hobby desk.
Oh,
And
thank
it
you.
does look like Napoleonic warfare figures, but they look amazing and they look exceptionally well based and painted with the cavalry and the infantry.
Thank you. This is my tough choice that we were speaking about before, because I love how I've made all these models look, but it would be a brand new army, running them either as free dwarves or as Varangur seem to fit very well as well. I'm really actually leaning more towards the free dwarves at the moment because they're defense 4 instead of Corsairs would be defense 3. And I played a test game with the Varangur and it didn't go very well. But yeah, this is what I'm working on. I've loved working on the flags. They turned out really well. They're just ordered off Flags of War was where I got them, but there's lots of places that sell them, or you can print off your own. You don't need any special pieces of paper, but you do need a really good printer.
Okay.
And then you just use some PVA glue, wrap it around the flagpole, and then kind of before it dries, just kind of like twist it into a shape, and they turn out really nice. So,
Well,
yeah.
The army looks amazing. I've seen it in person when I went over to your house a couple weeks ago for the test games in advance of King Beyond the Wall.
Yeah.
You held the open gaming for the people in the Ottawa Montreal region because you're situated about halfway between Ottawa and Montreal. So for anyone who ever listens to this who's from Montreal or around Montreal and wants to show up, it's about an hour and a bit drive to come to your house.
Yep.
And you were talking about having another get together in October, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, it would be great. There's been some interest. There's some people even up in Quebec City who are talking about coming down, and there's some. I just found out in my spare time when I'm not doing Kings of War. I've been doing Highland Broadsword.
Yeah.
Because there's a good teacher in the area, and there's some other people there who are former Warhammer Fantasy players, which we all know they all end up as Kings of War players. So
Yeah.
it's promising for the region.
And my understanding is you're currently set up to go to the Crossroads GT, and you have a team for that.
Yes, very excited joining the Murder Garage, as we're now going to be known. And from some of the guys down in Hamilton, Ben, yes, Ben and Nathan, and it's going to be pretty great. Yeah.
So you're joining Ben and Nathan in the Murder Garage to go to Crossroads.
I don't think I've actually ever visited the Murder Garage itself. I believe you have.
I have visited once before. I was lucky enough to be in the area and able to show up for a day. Great group of guys. Probably the number one club in Ontario at this point in time. And,
yep.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention Mike, who's the fourth member of our team. He was the one who also just absolutely decimated me when I played that test game of Varangur.
So wait a minute. You have Nathan, you have Nick, yourself, and Mike.
No, sorry, Ben, Nathan.
Oh, Ben.
Yeah. So Ben is playing. Ben is playing elves.
Yeah.
Nathan is taking. He has a very if anybody's going to Crossroads, look out for Nathan's army. He's got some beasts of what are they called? Beastmen.
Yeah.
And incredible display board. And Mike has Northern Alliance. Every time I play him, he kicks my ass. He's been putting a lot of games in. So, Nathan and I think we're going to be the dead weight for the team.
Well, I think you're going to have a tough series of questions to ask as to whether or not they want you to play the defense 6 wall, so that if you're going up against somebody who doesn't have a lot of crushing strength, you can be like, let's play. I don't care about the scenario because you're never going to kill me.
Yep.
Or, which way do you run it? Or do you go for the free dwarfs?
Yep.
But that will be your tough decision going ahead.
Even
so
sorry,
I was going to say Crossroads is in September.
Yep.
And it's coming up fairly soon. So lots of excitement. I'm actually just going to pull up the exact dates. September 22nd to 24th. So
should be fun. And are you taking Trident Realms?
I think I'm going to take Order of the Green Lady. My Trident Realms have been a bit more, they need a bit more protection. Ben absolutely thumps me. Took me behind the woodshed and swatted me with his elves against the Trident Realm on Dominate. So he crushed any and all hopes I had. And I haven't figured out how to beat the elves. So currently in my workbench area, you'll see an elf army coming together, and you'll also see an Empire of Dust army coming together.
Ooh.
I'm not sure which army is going to come out first, but they're both being painted. And as I get done with one unit, I go to the other army and paint another unit. So.
Oh, nice. Have you done shooting armies before?
I've done 18-inch range shooting with Trident Realm, but that's about it. So
yeah.
I really want to do Empire of Dust because I typically like to go a different play style with each army. So I did ogres, I did rats with hordes, I did Trident Realm with Nimble, Alpha Strike with Green Lady. So if I did Empire of Dust, it would be High Surge. And I don't think anyone plays High Surge right now in Ontario. I know they do in the Northeast, but not in Ontario. So
I hate versing Surge armies. I can never think that far ahead, and it's they're really good.
And Elf would be just because I want to be better than everyone else, and that's clearly what the elves do. So I'm not sure which army will come out first, but we'll give it a go.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
But Tim, I just wanted to say thanks a lot for taking your time this evening. Thanks for talking about your experiences at King Beyond the Wall. Do you think for next year, assuming Alex and John are willing to do this again, that you'd recommend the monster as a special edition, something that makes the tournament unique? Or
yeah, absolutely. I thought it was great. I initially had some small reservations, and I thought maybe it might take away from the game because it added extra time and all that sort of stuff. But no regrets. I thought it was great. Like you're saying before, maybe some pre-made ones would be very cool, but I really just liked it the way it was. It was really good. Amazing venue, amazing guys.
And I like being able to make it. Maybe offer two. And my suggestion was maybe offer 2 or 3 pre-made ones for people who don't want to think and don't want to figure out the 5 points here and the 5 points there. To just go like, here's Super Killy Death Monster, or here's Super. I played against Nick's Forces of Nature.
Yep.
And his monster was a defense 6, 22-24 nerve with regeneration 4+.
Yeah.
Like he had 5 attacks, but we were playing loot with 3 tokens. And if you have to, like, if that monster picks up a token and you have to kill it, that 22-24 defense 6 with regeneration 4 is not something that wants to die.
Yeah.
And it was perfectly suited for that style of scenario where, hey, there's only 3 tokens on the board, and if I can control one, all the other points in my army can get the other tokens. So
I remember versing the same one and having the same problem.
Yeah. So it was a very unique monster, very unique feature to the tournament. I'm very happy that the guys did it. So thanks a lot this evening, Tim, and I look forward to seeing you at Crossroads.
We'll see you then.